So research has shown that it's predominantly young people whose mental health is being severely impacted by the pandemic. So what is Labour's plan to protect young people from the long-term impact of coronavirus on their mental health?
Yasmin, really, is Yasmin or Kate, is it?
I'm Jasmine.
Jasmine, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
And we've got Kate coming on in a minute. Look, I have been really struck by the impact of the pandemic on young people and their mental health in a number of sessions we've had. And it's taken me slightly by surprise because I had, in questions of loneliness and mental health impact, I had very much in mind that I thought that older people, possibly more isolated people, would be particularly affected. And then what turned up was younger people very impacted by it. And I think this is going to be a major challenge coming out of the pandemic. And we need more resources because we've never really had any kind of parity between mental health and physical health. And we need more resources in, before the pandemic, it took too long. If you needed a mental health assessment, autism or anything like that, in some places it was 12 months before you could even get an assessment to even start the work that might be needed to support. That was completely unacceptable, and it will of course now be even more difficult. So we need the resourcing, we need determination. And I think we need to bring together across the regions all of the leaders to have a specific plan coming out of this pandemic for young people and mental health, because I genuinely fear that it's much bigger than we perhaps think, and we need to get ahead of this now. There are related issues. Obviously, schools have got attainment gap issues, but the mental health for young people, I think, is a big issue, and we need to have a lot of attention on it. Thank you, Jasmine.
Hi, I'm Kate, and I wanted to ask about young disabled people, because young disabled people have found themselves often excluded by the vaccine rollout guidelines, despite those between 18 and 34 dying at 30 times the rate of the general population. So I wanted to know what action Labour is taking to ensure that young disabled lives are genuinely cared for by their government.
Yeah, again,
can I just start with that, Kate?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Well, I mean, just to throw one thing in, which is something that we've heard from young people. We will change the power structures of the West Midlands so that young people in general and disabled young people have far more of a voice and far more of an oversight into the ways policies are developed and delivered. We're the youngest region in Europe. We should be the best place in Europe to be young. And that's why I said this morning, I want to make it a defining mission of my mayoralty to create the place that has the best life chances for our young people. But that means all young people, not just some of them, not just some of them who go to King Edward School in Edgbaston, all of them. So actually giving young people a voice and a say and an oversight into the way policies are delivered, I think could be one of the ways we make policy better, crucially for young people and crucially for young people with disabilities.
Kate, just let me add to that. There is no denying that disabled people have been particularly affected by the pandemic. We can see that, we know that, and as we come out of the pandemic, we need to address that. Obviously, that requires disabled people to be given a voice, and a proper voice, and that requires all of us to think differently. Lots of disabled people have said to me that although we're all moaning and groaning about working remotely in the pandemic, that has allowed disabled people to participate in a way which isn't always possible when you have a physical meeting. So there's also learning some of the lessons of the last 10 months, but then there's something really profound, I think, which is to ask ourselves, what's the barrier? And for too long, we've said, well, the barrier is the disabled person. There's something about them, that's the barrier. That's actually, the barrier is often in the place and the thinking outside of that. And so we need to see, when we're thinking about stations, buses, places, etc., the barrier is in the bus, the station, the place. And that is, I think, a really important mindset that needs to change. And I say that as someone who had a very disabled mum for all of my life. And therefore, I know what an impact it has on disabled people. But if we don't shift our thinking, then I think we will be much slower in moving forward on this. But thank you for raising it. It's a really important issue.
Great, thank you.